Welcome to the My Jesus Story podcast. I'm Kristen.
And I'm Kim.
And today we have Kelley.
Hi guys. Thanks for having me here.
Welcome. We're glad to have you.
So the first question that we like to start off with is, how did you meet Jesus?
I met Jesus when I was about 25 years old. So later in my life, I met him. He had always been around me, but being younger and not really raised in church, it was different for me. So when I met him, it was through a heaven or hell play that I went to with my husband now. And we were married, but we had just been married maybe like 5 years, and he was already in church and had been in church.
What heaven or help? Is that what you said?
Heaven or hell play.
What is that?
So, funny you ask. Our church used to put on a heaven or hell play, and there were multiple skits that went on during this play, and there was, so basically I'll tell you the one that got to me.
Yeah.
There's multiple scenarios, but all if you're not living a good life. These teenagers were out drinking, having a great time. They're drinking alcohol, drugs, doing whatever, and they get in a car wreck. Only one of them survive. The others die. And then all of a sudden you see the one girl, she goes to heaven. And then the other two that died, you see the devil come out and the change. It was very graphic looking. And honestly, I wasn't saved, and I won't talk about the stuff that I used to do because I don't think that's what this is for, but God brought me and delivered me from all of that. And it all happened that night in that play. And it was like, at the moment I seen it, I started crying, and I changed.
So that spoke to you. I mean, or
it definitely
hit
did.
your heart.
It did, yes. I feel like that for being younger and not being in church, my family wasn't a bad family by no means, right? And we would go to church, dabble in church is what I'll say. But there was no feeling like the feeling that we have at our church, Kristen and I. There's just a feeling there. I've been to other churches, and there are some other churches that I've been to that do have the Spirit. But it's never been as strong as it has been in Pastor Baker's church. And I love it there because like we are able to worship, and I don't feel like that you're held to a certain time, like where we've got to get out by a certain time. He does try to keep everything on time, but overall, I mean, great church. And so back to the heaven or hell play, like I was telling you guys, I digress.
That's okay.
But being young, I was always doing stuff that I shouldn't have been doing. But a lot of that stemmed from when my dad passed away. He passed away when I was really young, so I was 13 when he passed. And not knowing it back then, but then figuring it out as you get older and you start to grow with God, I realized that all that time I was out drinking, that was my heart yearning for something else, because I didn't have my dad growing up, and I didn't know what to do with all those emotions that I had because, my mom was there, but it was just, you try to be strong and you try to go on because that's what you have to do. So I don't really know if I ever grieved right, So then like I said, that day when I went to that play, it 100% hit me all right then and there.
Wow.
Yep.
Can you talk about, so obviously there was a change at some point. Was it an instant like, I need to turn my life around, or can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so I will say, like, when I got saved, right, the first time I was saved was 25. It was at that heaven or hell play.
You got saved like right at that?
Right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll have to say, like, I don't really remember anything making me feel like prior to that. But I will say my husband was more into church, and he was going a lot. And I wasn't going. I would just stay at home for no other reason, just to stay at home. But I feel like that when I was there and I got saved, it was just overwhelming that I seen these kids that I thought in my head were, okay, well, they're just drinking. They were just having fun. Like, blowing off steam, right? Like I feel like that's what kids think about that it's not a big deal, but you're not promised tomorrow. And that is what stuck with me from that play is, it had to have been God, right? Because I don't remember ever feeling or thinking about that until that moment. Because honestly, like I said, when I was younger, I really did not care if I lived or died when I was younger. I did not. So to say I was rebellious is being probably modest.
Wow.
So I feel like, maybe God had been working on me all that time and I really didn't know it, So then when I come to the play, it was like, wow, I don't want to go there. And whatever it was, it just kind of hit me that I've got to turn my life around. And I also had my aunt, who I was pretty close to. I always hang out with her granddaughter, and she was a Pentecostal, and she always went to church, and she would always tell me and my friend, who I was always out with, you girls will turn stuff around. I pray for you all the time, and we would just honestly laugh it off. And it's not something that, we would actually talk about with her. She would make us talk with her, and we're like, oh, here we go again. We're getting a preaching lesson, And it was that type of thing, just like what you would expect younger kids to think that have not been in church or don't really give much thought about it.
How old was that lady?
Oh, she was, at that time, she probably was mid-60s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys were late teens, early 20s?
Late teens. Probably 18, 19. I remember one conversation we had with her, and we were probably about 19, because we had been graduated for about a year. And she specifically set us both down and said, you're not going the right way. Type of a thing. And I'm like, and I was that person, I'm like, well, you're not going to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
So that's why I say when I said I was rebellious, I'm very rebellious, because if you would tell me to do one thing, I'm going to do the exact opposite. Which,
out of spite.
Yeah. Which is crazy, again, when I go back to think about that play, because normally for somebody like me, like, I wouldn't do what I felt like someone was wanting me to do, but I know that it was God without a shadow of a doubt. Still to this day, I can't tell you all the emotions, but like, I just know 100% that it was God that was like whispered in my ear, like, this could be you. This could have been you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it 100%, it definitely could have been.
Wow. So did they do like an altar call and you stood up and went, or?
Yes.
Okay.
It was, so they did an altar call, but they didn't make you get out of your seat.
Okay.
Cause like I said, I'm a little bit of an introvert when it comes to that stuff. So I'm always, and that's where I will tell you, like, God still works on me, because I'm very much like, I do not like to be a center of attention or have people like come around me or anything. Not because I don't like people, but it's more about like, I don't want focus on me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So they said you can stand in your seats and like, you can bow your head and you say the sinner's prayer. And I did, and it was just like, I could 100% feel God, like, and I'm not a crier, and like, I couldn't stop crying. Like, it was the type of crying of like, that I remember of when they told me that I lost my dad and stuff, because it was very quick. It was unexpected. So that it was like that type of a crying, like that you're not expecting it type of a thing, like weak knees, everything. And for someone that's doesn't really know God, and we went to church, but we only went to like Methodist churches, and not saying anything about that, but like, it's a different, atmosphere that you're in. Yeah. And everybody has their own style that they like. But I know my aunt, when she would tell us and she would try to get us to go, I'm not going to Pentecostal church. And then when I met my husband, he's like, oh yeah, I go to Pentecostal. I'm like, oh, okay. And I love it. I love it now, though.
What I think is super cool is a lady who was in her 60s had courage enough to go to some girls in their late teens, early 20s and say, you know what? Maybe you need to redirect, even knowing that you were going to brush it off or tell her, whatever, lady. But she did it anyways. And now looking back, I'm sure you look back at that and are like, wow, she was praying for me, you know?
Oh, yeah. And like, I was able to, she had not passed away before I got saved. Mm-hmm. So I was able to tell her mm-hmm. and talk to her about that. And the crazy thing is like, one of the things that really kind of like, I guess with her, when I was talking with her and everything was that, I realized that all that time that I was sinning, right? Because that's what I was doing. Because I was knowingly drinking to get drunk. Mm-hmm. God was still protecting me that whole time. Mm-hmm. Even though I didn't care about myself, he cared enough for me to like protect me. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure my mom was praying too, you know, but like I definitely know I had a praying aunt and grandma too, mm-hmm. Which was my aunt's sister, obviously.
Okay.
But my grandma you can't tell her, you know, my grandma would be like, you can't tell Kelley anything. Mm-hmm. She's going to do her own thing. Mm-hmm. Just let her go and she'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. But my aunt would not do that. She 100%, like I told you, would set us down and like, don't do that. You should be doing this. This is why. Mm-hmm. And she would tell us like certain scriptures and stuff too. And it's kind of interesting now just because of thinking back about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she was there. My aunt was always there for me too. Like I mentioned, another thing that my aunt done was when my dad passed, one of the preachers that I knew from where I was growing up, he had told me, because I asked him if my dad would was in heaven, and he's like, well, if he wasn't baptized, he wouldn't be in heaven. Mm-hmm. And that like was another piece that mm-hmm. added to like just this. I don't even know how to explain it. It was almost really like a hatred mm-hmm. at that point mm-hmm. because I did not want to, you know, nobody wants to hear that. Mm-hmm. And no one knows, you know, at the end of the day, anybody at the last minute, you can call out and ask to be saved.
Right.
So no one knows what happened in that last moment with mm-hmm. my dad other than him and Jesus. So he could have called out.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So that was a lot for me, I think, when you tell a 13-year-old that her dad probably may not be in heaven. That's a lot for someone who just lost their dad, who was like their hero.
Yes.
So it took a lot for me to come back, because you always want to blame God mm-hmm. for things. Mm-hmm. And Rob even told me this. He's like, well, you can blame God for things, but he's like, why would you do that? He's like, do you think that's the only person? And we were talking about it. You know, he said, why would you think God's the only one? Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't know, because he can, you know, that is who you go to. Like, I know enough to know that, like, God could have changed everything, mm-hmm. right? In my mind at that time. But Rob's like, why wouldn't you think the devil? Why would you think that this had anything to do with God? Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, he could save, but like the devil is also out there constantly after you and on you to try to like break you and move you away from God. And which 100% thinking back, he'd done that to me my whole life, right? Mm-hmm. Because had I found God earlier, in my opinion, I wouldn't have struggled as much as I did mm-hmm. through most of my life mm-hmm. and stuff. And I'm not saying being saved is supposed to be an easy walk, because I don't think that it is. No. Because I think if it's easy, then you probably need to question yourself, mm-hmm. right? If you're having an easy walk. Maybe you are, though. You know, maybe some people are. But for me, my walk, when I got saved and after that, it became harder mm-hmm. because there were things you have to let go of that I struggled with letting go of. So,
did you have to walk away from friends?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I bet that was hard.
I did. And then, you know, I think there are times too where, you know, even though I got saved when I was 25, I definitely backslid.
Mm-hmm.
So, and some of that was because I went back to some of the friends I had been friends with before, and God spoke to me and was like, you can't continue to basically have one foot in church and one foot in the real world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that was very hard for me because I love all my friends and I'm still friends with them, but like we don't hang out.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Well, you love them and you will always love them.
And maybe there's something that I could say that might make some of them change their mind one day. And in fact, one of my friends who I grew up with in college, she is actually saved now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she was one of the friends that I had to, that I wasn't around anymore. I would talk to her, text her and stuff like that. But now she has become, and they go to church all the time, her and her husband and her daughter. So
I'm slowly finding that realization with my high school friends, because some of them just kind of cut me off. Like, we're friends on social media and stuff, but because of the way I lived my life and my lifestyle, they don't come around or talk to me much anymore. So
it's hard, I think.
Yeah.
That's definitely a challenging thing, especially when you're younger too. When you get older, it's still harder, but definitely I feel like when you're younger, maybe God knew at the right time to talk to me. I don't know. I wish I would have met him earlier in my life, because I think it would have saved me going through a lot of heartache, because I was really broken for literally my heart was broken, right? Because of the loss of my dad. And then, like I said, even later on, I ended up backsliding, but some of that was because of my mom, and I lost my mom to cancer. And that was really a struggle for me, because I felt like when she was going through everything and we were praying, and she even came to our church and stuff, and she started going to church. So I know she got saved. So I thought for sure that, God would move and he would heal her, and it wasn't supposed to be that way, and that took a lot for me. And I was with her. I went and visited her. I was with her through the weekends and stuff when she was sick and everything. So it took a lot. So when I say my heart was broken, I had my dad, then my mom, then a couple of years later, my brother passed away unexpectedly. So all of my, I still have some family, but your close-knit family, was all gone.
Right.
And so it was always been a struggle. And I felt like those struggles were the struggles that made me stronger. It sounds crazy, but it just made me realize that now that I know for sure that my mom and brother were saved and in heaven, that I have to get there. So it kind of is it's that end goal of you can go back to your old ways and be who you used to be, or you can keep pushing forward and learn more about God, which is what I'm doing, because I constantly feel like that I need to learn more and be more in the Word, read my Bible more, because I want to, not because I feel like that I need to, but it's more of a want now than before. It would be more oh, okay, I'll do this. I'll open up my Bible.
Obligatory 10 minutes in the morning, whatever. Yeah.
Yep. And now it's more of I want to. I want to learn how to read the Bible, but actually not just read it and go through and read it. I want to actually understand and be able to transfer that into my life.
Right. Right.
Yep.
It's interesting how maybe it starts out for a lot of people as, I got to put in my 5 minutes. But then as you do it, then things just happen in your brain, and then you do find peace when you have it sitting in front of you. And I was that way too. And now I could sit there and deliberate and ponder and think and research, and it's been 2 hours and I'm I got stuff to do. But it is so interesting, because I had a hard time sitting down with the Bible for a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And then I think if you just keep at it, somehow your eyes are opened and your ears hear, and it's so interesting. And I love hearing those stories, because it's just another confirmation. Just keep doing it and it will make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like well, definitely for me, like I'm an impatient person.
Yeah.
Or I don't have patience. So for me, I'm like, well, I should just be able to sit down and read it and understand it right now and then hear God. And it doesn't work like that, you know? So I feel like that's like the learning piece of it too, is like, you've got to try to like read it, digest it, understand it, and apply it into like for me personally, like I want to know how to apply that into my life. And like, how can I know of the Bible, I know like, cause we talk about it in church all the time, right? So I know like the outer part of it. What I want to understand is like the more in detail part that then you can take and use that for yourself or help somebody else, right? That's the other thing, is like, I always ask God, like, what am I supposed to do for someone? Like, how can I, not me, but like, how can I help save another soul or something? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like
use me. How can you use
like,
me? Yeah.
Everybody talks about like, well, what is your gift? And like, I don't feel like God has said like, this is your gift, Kelley. I've never felt that at all. And I always ask that of him. Like, that's one of my prayers that I pray, because I don't know what, I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. So when I stand before him, like that I've done everything that I can do. I know the things I need to work on, but like, then what is my gift? Do I have one? So those are questions I ask all the time.
Have you done the spiritual gifts assessment?
No.
Just Google it.
Okay.
For me, it was freeing, because I was banging my head against the wall, feeling like inferior, because there were certain things I thought I was supposed to be doing and I wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't any good at it. But when I found out it wasn't a part of I wasn't gifted in it, I was like, oh, thank you. I don't have to mess with that anymore. But I am gifted in encouragement. It's got a different word in the Bible. I can't think of what it is. And I'm like, well, that makes total sense, because I do encourage. And administration is another one, and that makes sense because that's what I do. So
I will definitely look that up then.
Yeah, there's a couple of different ones. But like I said, for me, it was freeing when I realized that I can't even remember what it was. That's how much I've forgotten about it. Yeah. That wasn't my gift. I'm like, sweet.
Yeah. Well, you weren't supposed to remember, right?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
You only care about the ones that you can impact.
Right.
Yep.
And gosh, all parts of this are pointing to a conversation I had with a girl this morning.
Oh, really?
And so, yes, I'm going to say, listen, call her and say, you have to listen to this particular episode, because it cracks me up. He does this all the time. We were talking about gifts. We were talking about heaven and hell and who goes. And it's, you just have to leave it to God. It's not our, you plant the seeds like your aunt did. Yep. All this stuff. Good stuff.
Have you ever had a time where you knew that it was God that brought you out of that?
Yes. Honestly, just recently with I've had multiple times, but I'll talk about the most recent one, when I had my surgery, because I'd been having like stomach problems and issues, and for a while it was like, oh, I would just take some Tums or Gas-X, right? And I'm like, I'll be fine. Rob's like, you probably should go see with someone. And I'm like, nah, it'll be okay. So when we went and we started doing, I had to have like blood work done, and then they felt some levels that weren't right. And then they're like, well, we need to send you for an MRI, because there definitely something's going on. So then when they take me for this MRI, they find out that they think what I have is like, so basically my bile duct was blocked, and it was part of my liver had died. So the reason that it had died was there was a blockage in my bile duct.
Wow.
And that blockage that they thought was cancer, they said it was like a 70% chance that it would be cancer, 30% that it was not. And I was like, there's no way, it can't be that, because I was reading about it. It was not promising. I'll just say that. And so when they took me back to do my other MRI, because I had to have multiple MRI, CAT scans, whatever you want to call them. I had on See a Victory by Elevation Worship, because they let you play music while you're doing the MRI just to relax, and it was like about an hour. And the whole thing about that song, that you're going to see a victory, is that you believe in God and you believe that He will move on you. I love Elevation Worship, by the way, but like that song, like literally at that moment, that's what was playing, and I just felt that God was like, it'll be okay. And it was just as simple as that. Like, it came over me because I was upset and like trying not to cry, but kind of crying, because, you know, you're there and you're in this thing, I'm very like private to an extent, and I'm like, I don't want people seeing me cry.
Yeah.
And I remember like trying to not cry as I'm hearing the music, and then I just, like, it was literally like God spoke to me and He's like, it'll be okay. And I still worried, right? But like, I 100% was just like, I know it was God. I felt that it was God. And then they did the surgery and they said that it was not cancerous.
Wow.
So I definitely know that 100%, like, whether or not it was cancer, like, God spoke to me then and definitely took care of me.
So peace that surpasses understanding. That's what you got. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Peace is, and I think like that's just what He is to me. For me personally, He gives me peace in my life, and He is love. And those are the two things. I mean, He saved me, yes, and like for that, I can never ever thank Him enough. Like every time I pray, like I always thank Him for everything, and I literally mean that. But He is my peace, because He was able to give me back a lot of happiness that I lost, and like He does, He calms your fears too, and that's a big thing for me. Is like my anxiety can make me start thinking crazy thoughts that somebody probably is not even thinking, but I think they might be thinking, or I'm just making. It's easy because your mind is your worst enemy. It really is.
Oh my gosh,
especially for people that have anxiety. And it's just like, I believe in Him. And like, whenever I start feeling that way, I would always pray. And I still do to this day. Like, if I start down a rabbit hole with myself, I'm like, nope. I'm like, that's not God. And I do. I immediately stop. And I'm talking about, that could be me sitting at my desk working. And if I think somebody thinks, oh, she's dumb, I'm like, no. Nope, we're not doing that today. And that is exactly what I do. And I say a little prayer of like, get my mind out of that, because we're not going to go down that road.
Okay, good. Thank you for explaining, because I was going to ask you, go into detail on how you do that, because I know, well, most women and maybe men too, I don't know, do that. Your brain starts rolling, and it never rolls in the right direction. Why does it roll in the wrong direction?
Always. And that's it is. It's like that little, I always think of it when my mind does that, and it will sound really funny, but it was like always that cartoon of the Looney Tunes. You have like the devil on one side and the angel on the other. And I literally like envision that. And I know it sounds silly, and I'm like almost 50 years old, and I still think of that cartoon every time. And I'm like, it's the devil making me think that. That's not anything that God would ever make His children think, Right. But it is hard when you're in the moment, because you have to try to be like, no, stop.
Yes.
Or when you literally stop and get up and walk away. Yeah. Especially if I'm at my job, I'll be like, stop. And I literally will just get up and walk away.
Take a break. Yeah.
I do. Yeah. Yep.
Or if it's a habit, and then you're trying to break this, that habit.
Because you do it in your personal life too. Yeah. It's not like it's just in your professional life. You make up things. I make up things in my head all the time. That are probably not true, and it's like you just keep spiraling, like you said. Yeah. So that's how I found it is hard, but like once you catch yourself, then you're like, then I know what's happening, and I can stop and basically like reset, if you will.
Yes. Yep. I wish that people understood the peace that you were talking about earlier. I almost wish people could have an instantaneous understanding of what life with God feels like, because it looks it can look one way, but it feels different. You feel different, and it's different for everybody based on what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
But you have peace, you have joy when you shouldn't have joy. Control freaks like me have a hard time relinquishing control. But when God says, this doesn't belong to you, this podcast doesn't belong to me, sweet. Like it's his, and he's going to do with it whatever he wants. And there is freedom in that, and no stress except for poor Kristen, who has to run the technology. But for me, there's and freedom in not having to take this anywhere because he's got it.
Yep, exactly.
There's a part of me that wishes that was instantaneous, but then there's a part of me that, there's a struggle that you have to go through. I don't know.
And who knows, right? Like, I'm one person, one opinion, but I feel like sometimes we have to go through struggles. Mm-hmm. Maybe I should say it by this. People like me who always feel like that they need to learn from their mistakes. And like it's just like trying to help your kids. You want to teach them differently so they don't have to learn from their mistakes.
Right.
So you can make their life easier. But I think for some people, it doesn't work that way because they need to learn from their own mistakes. Maybe they need to experience it for themselves, right? And then that becomes the bigger reward in the end, because then you really know, like I told you, like that's how I knew at that moment 100% that there was no doubt in my mind that I needed to be saved.
Right. Can you think of a time where you, similar to what your aunt did for you, where you stepped out and thought, all right, well, this person needs love. It may not go well, but I'm going to go ahead and just stick my foot in the water and see what happens.
Yes. I have had a couple times like that. I will say it's very hard for me to do that. And I don't always know if I have the right words to say to people. That's always in the back of my mind. It's like, am I going to say the right thing? Because I don't want to go talk to that person and then mess that up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Everybody's fear. Yeah.
Yes. And I did. I talked to my cousin, who I used to hang around with all the time. That was my aunt. That was her grandma.
Oh, gotcha.
And tried to talk to her about some of the stuff that she was involved in. And it did not go well at all. But everyone has to make their own choices, you know? And even when you talk to someone, even if they don't agree with you, right? With God, I feel like it's almost the same way. Like, as long as you try to show love to that person, I think that's the biggest thing, is if you're showing them love and that you care about them, and not about like ridiculing their behavior that they're doing, or trying to like put them already into, for the lack of a better word, like saying like, you're going to go to hell because of how you're acting. So, and I don't think that's, I don't think that that's where you want to go. It just needs to be more about showing love for that person. Right.
That's tricky. It's hard to do with family more than with friends or even strangers. Mm-hmm. I don't know why that is, because you would think that it would be easy to talk to your family.
Yeah.
Because they're your family, but I think most people do have a hard time talking with their family about it.
Yeah, I think it's hard. And I mean, even talking to your friends, I think it's hard too, you know? But yeah, I think talking to your friends, that would be another thing, right? Like, that's why I said that I feel like now I need to read more about the Bible. So that way, like, I can talk to people intelligently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if I'm ever challenged, right? About like why I believe the way I believe. Like, it's a feeling I have, but I also want to be able to back why I think the way I do, and this is where I got that from.
Yeah.
Do you have advice for people in highs or lows right now in their lives?
Yeah. I mean, I would say for people that's in the highs of their life, like that's easy, right? It's always easy to believe in God, constantly be in prayer with Him when you're at that high moment in your life. So I feel like it's always going to be easy, but the harder part of being, I think, a Christian is when you're in those low parts. And that is really a challenge. And I think a lot of people probably, well, I'll say me personally, like I struggle when I'm in my lows a lot because sometimes I may not always hear God. Mm-hmm. But I know that just because I don't hear Him doesn't mean that He's not working or doesn't mean that He's left my side, you know, and I 100% believe that. I just think that there's something else that has to be done first before maybe He moves on what I'm asking Him to move. And I definitely think anyone that's in the low part of your life, continue to pray. And if you're not a Christian and you're having a low part of your life, that is a perfect time to seek God and find God, because He is the only one that will be able to give you that peace that you need in your life, no matter what it is. I don't care if it's heartache or anything else, right? Like, to me, like, He's the only one that's going to be able to help you. And I can speak to that peace just because I know turning to other things that are not of God to try to get rid of that heartache, it only covers it for that moment in time. And then you just continue to repeat that same low that you were in if you don't find God.
Mm-hmm. It's like a fulfilling peace that's like, it's like warm apple pie that just never goes away. You know, it's just like...
It is.
Yeah.
No, that is very true. Yep.
Yeah, you're right. That's good. That's good. Okay.
So you're sitting on a bench with Jesus. You look at Him and say, what?
I look at Him and I'll cry because...
You're going to make me cry, dang you.
I will. Because I would just say, thank you. Thank you for, like, loving me when I didn't love myself. So that is the biggest thing. That's why I always say in my prayers, I always thank Him, because even when I feel like the worst person I could possibly be and not be saved, He saw fit to continue to keep His hand over me and give me chance after chance. And I mean literally chance after chance. And just say thank you for that. And I love you, and would ask Him if I could hug Him. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like you would have to ask Jesus if you could hug Him, right? Like, I don't feel like that I could just do that, because I feel like He is someone so special to me. So yeah, sorry. You got me to cry, and I typically don't cry. I told you guys. But when I talk about God, like, I know what He brought me through. I know where I was, and it was a horrible place to be when you're young. And yeah, I went through other trials, but when I did lose my mom and when I did lose my brother, I had God at that time, and it made it so much easier. So to compare my life when I lost my dad when I was 13 to then losing my mom and brother, they're completely two different things, because I had God with me. And that's why I say, when you feel that God's not there, He's 100% there. Always. So, yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, because, yeah, I mean, that's heartfelt, and that's why we love doing what we do.
Yeah. I'm not a crier, so obviously, like, and I've seen that, like, the question and stuff about that, and it's just, it's really hard for me, because I get very emotional, and there are certain songs that I get very emotional about too, because there'll be songs that actually like speak to you, and they may not speak to everyone else, right? But there are songs that speak to me, and there was maybe a certain trial that I went through. So there are so many songs that I tell my husband all the time. I'm like, I cannot listen to that song because it makes me cry.
Yeah.
And it does, but now I listen to them, and I thank God whatever I'm doing. Like I said, if I'm sitting at my desk and I'm listening to my music and one of my songs come on, I immediately stop and I praise God and thank him, because I know what could have happened to me. And like I said, it's a scary thing when you think back that I was teetering all that time when I was younger and did not know God, but he was protecting me that whole time. And that's just, anyone that's not saved, then that's something to think about. And watching the Heaven or Hell play, I don't even know if they put them on anymore, but they're very real. This one was very realistic.
They are very real.
I've never heard of those.
I went to one when I was younger.
Okay.
I don't know if they still have them or
Maybe
not.
somebody needs to bring them back then.
The one I went to, it was the one off of 125, and it's where it's the church that's so there's tire discounters, and then there's a church to the right. Like if you're looking at tire discounters.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what, but that's the church that
that's
had
where
the
it was.
play.
Okay.
And there, like I said, there was all different scenarios. There was the drug one. There was one where two guys were construction workers. And it's always about one would be saved or a couple would be saved, but the other one wouldn't, and what would happen. And some of it would just be like, well, I believe in God, but they never gave their life to God. So then what happens?
What happens? Yeah.
So it's a very, very good play. And like our church did put it on like a couple years and everything. We had it in the old church.
That was before my time.
Okay.
It was way before her time. I was like, geez, I don't know. Me and Rob were married, but we were really young. It was like 2003, maybe?
Oh, it was only a year before my time.
Okay. Yeah. I have to find a picture, but there's pictures of it.
You were an angel, right?
I was the angel that had the
Book of Life
that said yes or no.
Oh, okay.
Basically, that sent people to heaven or hell.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, now thinking back about that, I'm like, I don't ever want to do that again.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
Now it's different sitting here saying that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Gosh. Well, we thank you for your vulnerability and your story and for coming on and sharing with everybody.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
I enjoyed it, actually.
Yeah,
So.
it's fun.
Yes, it is fun.
Nothing to stress about. Thank you to our listeners for listening, and tune in next week for another encouraging testimony on My Jesus Story podcast.